Well, it's Thursday. I think we're going live. I'm Alex. I'm from the infant feeding team. I'm a couple of minutes late. 2:30, hopefully. Just gone there about. Oh, yeah, I can see we're up live now. Hopefully I'm not going to be on my own. I'm going to be on my own in the room because my colleague Naomi's off until next week. But oh, brilliant! I can see people arriving. Fantastic. It's nice to see people popping up on the screen because we can see little icons, which makes such a difference. No, you're not on your own. So I'm Alex from the infant feeding team, and this is the infant feeding Facebook Live to talk about anything to do with feeding, early days, sleep, and we can talk about safer sleep, introducing solid foods a bit later on, although your health visitors are really good on that one, but I'm here to support you about any of those sort of things. You know, there's changes that come about as feeding progresses, and it's whether you're feeding, you know, you're breastfeeding or you're mixed feeding or you're bottle feeding. So we are the infant feeding team. We're here to support you in whatever decision you make. So, you know, this is the session for you. Hopefully anyone who tuned in last week or has watched it since enjoyed the session that we did from the milk bank with Amanda. Amanda was really informative about how the milk bank works, what we're talking about when we're dealing with donated breast milk, the scrutiny that it goes through to ensure that it's safe to be given to our babies on the neonatal unit, on the wards, and when we're very, very, very lucky, sometimes mothers might take a little bit home. But that's not a foregone conclusion. That's totally dependent on how much we've got. So it was, you know, if you haven't seen it and you're interested to find out more about donated breast milk, watch last week's session, which I did with Amanda, and we did it downstairs in the milk bank. It was really good to be there, you know, and I opened the freezers to show, you know, these freezers that are stocked up with this donated breast milk, and that, you know, the reminder that donated breast milk will have a green lid and mother's own milk will have a pinky purple lid. So it's, you know, we can make checks in that respect. So it was a really useful session, and I've had some really good feedback from it, and I've got some good viewing numbers as well. Any further questions you might have on that, let me know, and you know, be very, very happy to answer them as best I can. And if I can't, I'll forward them on to Amanda and get the answers back to you at another time. I was thinking about talking about weights today, you know, weight gain, what we're expecting. We've had a fair few babies coming in recently with quite big weight losses, and just, you know, if you're in that situation yourself, been there yourself, or you haven't had your baby yet, just to have a quick chat about it. You know, because we're talking about the fact that it's really, really normal for babies to lose weight in the, you know, the first few days of life. So just to say, this is a question and answer session, so please put your questions up. Thank you for that thumbs up, whoever that was. Please put your questions up. I've got things that I can talk about, but I love to be guided by you, by the questions that you have. And as we've always said, you know, no matter what you're thinking, if you think, oh, is that a silly question? If you're thinking it, someone else is too, so do them a favour. And if you've got the courage to put your question up, then do. And they often lead on to other things, and, you know, we can inform people about so many things to do with feeding. We've been doing this now for over 2 years. I say we because it's normally me and Naomi. Naomi's off at the moment, but she'll be back next week. So these sessions have been running for over 2 years, and they started because of COVID, because mothers weren't getting any support anywhere, and it was really difficult to get their questions answered, and this was a great way of reaching out to lots of people. But the numbers that we still get viewing do make it worthwhile us carrying on, and the feedback we get is still good. So, you know, and if you have got friends out there, then think about telling them if they're expecting a baby or they're struggling with feeding or want to ask a question, then, you know, signpost them to this. So anyway, that was my intro, and I said I was going to talk about weights. So, but this is not the only topic today. The topics will be led by you, but just a starting point. So babies are born, and, you know, we weigh them straight off. I mean, the first two questions you're always asked is, was it a boy or a girl, if you didn't know already, and how much did the baby weigh? And I can't tell you how many times as a delivery suite midwife I would get asked, how much does the baby weigh? And we've just literally delivered the baby onto the mummy. The baby's here, and it's a bit like, I don't know, we haven't put it on the scales yet. So we could have done with beds really that weigh mummy and baby, and anyway, we can't. So it does take a bit till we can weigh the baby, but that's a really good thing. It's, you know, it's the fact that we will be weighing your baby, and I said to you, the first 2 questions are always, aren't they, as you think about it, was it a boy or a girl? What did your baby weigh? That's what everybody wants to know. If you've had your baby, that's good. First 2 questions everyone will ask you. Now, we tend to put off the weight until the baby's had a first feed, and that's important because we don't want to move the baby away from mum. We've talked about skin to skin lots of times, and I'm quite happy to talk about that again if need be. But the thing I was going to focus on now was about the weight. So well, hopefully, once the baby's born, spent some time skin to skin, baby's had a feed, we would then weigh the baby. Now, if you haven't yet had your baby, can I highly recommend that you have whoever's with you, your partner, your birth partner, whoever, ready to take a photograph of your baby on the scales. Now, this isn't just because it's lovely to have a picture of your baby on the scales, but actually it's really, really useful. We're not perfect. Sometimes mistakes are made, and we on occasion might transpose a number. So having a picture of a baby on the scales is brilliant. Not only as a fantastic keepsake, you know, whatever that number says, but also as a somewhere to refer to go back to, should there ever be a question about what did your baby weigh at birth. So having a picture of your baby on the scales. Now, babies are weighed naked. We always weigh them naked. And you would then get a picture. Obviously, you can protect your baby's modesty by the way you take it, but we would have the weight then. So that's your baby's birth weight. Now, bear in mind your baby's been fed via the umbilical cord. They've been continuously fed. They've been in a fluid environment. We anticipate babies will lose weight in the first 5 days. So your baby will be weighed on day 0 when they're born, and then the next time they're weighed will be day 5. Unless your baby is a bit small or a bit early, in which case we might weigh your baby sooner, may weigh your baby on day 3. But normally it's day 5. So we weigh your baby on day 5, and up to 10% weight loss is considered to be normal, within normal limits. If you're getting near the 10%, we might say to you, okay, how about we try and fit another feed in, or we maybe just add some compressions in, or we maybe suggest to you that you might think about doing a little bit of pumping. But so it's very, very normal for babies to lose up to and around 10% of their birth weight on day 5. What's happening is they're a bit overloaded with fluids. I said they're in a fluid environment. They've been they've been fed, constantly by the umbilical cord, and it's quite common. There's like a rebalancing, and actually when they go on the scales on the day 5, that they've lost some weight. More than 10% is concerning. More than 10%, we would be going, okay, let's put a plan in place. And this is not uncommon. So I know that mothers get very, very upset when their babies have lost more weight, and partners get very upset when babies have lost more than the 10%. But it happens often enough that we are working with, we have a guideline that we work to within the community, within the hospital, that if a baby's lost a bit more than 10%, we put a plan in place. And we have plans for whether they've lost 10%, it's around 12%, and up to 15% and beyond. So we're looking at how much has this baby lost and what are we going to do about it. So it's not, I know mums can take it and partners can take it very, very personally. They feel like there may be some parents have used the word failure, which is really sad, because you can't always have control over what's happened in those first few days. But what we can do is address it and go forward. It isn't automatically needing a baby to be readmitted. If you get to 15%, then yes, we are going to ask for the baby to come back in. If it's less than 15% and there are other issues going on, maybe like urates, which is like these orangey crystals in the nappy, then we would be thinking about that baby should come back in. But if it's at 11 or 12%, the baby's pooing and the baby's weeing and there aren't any urates, then the likelihood is you won't need to come back in. We'll put a plan in place with your community midwife and you'll stay at home. But I just want to make you aware that it happens, and it's nothing to do with necessarily what you've done. It's not going to be any reflection on you. It is something that does happen, and it gives us an opportunity. It allows us to have a safety net in place to actually turn things around and make it better, and secure your milk supply, get your baby feeding, and go from there. So, as I said, it is a guideline, and I'm trying to remember if I've even got a copy here. We have a flow chart on it. I don't know that I do. Didn't bring it with me, stupidly. So, yeah, we have a flow chart that as staff we follow, and in the community they have it too, and it's what we use as our guideline. Now, depending on how much your baby has lost, your community midwife might ring me up or ring one of my colleagues up and just say, this baby's lost some weight, what do we want to do? What plan do we need to put in place? And we'll talk through a plan, and we'll do what we can wherever possible to keep you at home. Now, I haven't brought it with me stupidly, keep you at home and maximise your breastfeeding. And if we have to, we may introduce donated if we have to, or formula on occasions. So it's just to say to you that it is really common for babies to lose weight in those first 5 days. Up to 10% is really normal. More than 10%, we would be definitely putting plans in place. And we're looking at the Poos and Weeds. We're looking at how that baby's coping. Is that baby coping well? Are they pooing? Are they weeing? Have we got no urates in the nappy, but they've lost weight? Then we're thinking, actually, has your milk just come in? We're looking at all these different things to go, does this baby need to come in? And you don't always have to. I can see some questions that come up, so I'm going to just break off and answer those and see what we've got going here, because that might stimulate some answers, some questions. Charlotte's come on. Hello, Charlotte. Hope you're well. She says, hope I'm well and I'm keeping safe. I am, thank you. And she's saying that her and her daughter Alicia have watched most of these chats. Thank you. I'm glad about that. That's lovely. Wow, Alicia weighed 6 pounds 3 ounces when she was born, and she's a growing toddler now. I know she's coming up 2, isn't she? Heba has said, thank you very much for recommending the First Steps Nutrition Eating Well in the First Year guide. It's so informative and accessible. Also, I know that the official advice is to start solids at 6 months, but I've seen some studies about iron levels and that waiting until 6 months could possibly increase the risk of iron deficiency. There seems to be conflicting evidence, and I wonder what your thoughts were on this. My baby's 5.5 months so far and been exclusively breastfed. We believe you have enough resources in your breast milk up to that point in time. Although breast milk, if you look at breast milk, doesn't look iron rich, what there is available to the baby. So human milk has not huge amounts of iron, but every bit of that iron is accessible for the baby because it's what's called really, really bioavailable. You also have lactoferrin in your milk, and lactoferrin helps carry that iron into the baby. It's like a transporter. So from that point of view, you are, despite there not being huge amounts of iron in your breast milk, you have sufficient for your baby for at least the first 6 months. So I wouldn't worry about that. And the recommendation of not going on to solid foods until 6 months comes from WHO and UNICEF. So, I mean, they are really big organisations, as you know, world renowned. So they wouldn't be recommending it if there were any concerns. So I would, if you can, keep going until the 6 months. Sometimes you have to add the odd extra breastfeed in. But what we know is if you introduce solid foods sooner than 6 months, and bear in mind if you've ever listened to these programs before, when Naomi and I have been talking, when our kids were young, and our kids are in their 20s, when our kids were young, we were being told to wean at 3 months. And what you were doing at that point in time is you are displacing milk. So you're filling the baby up with something like baby rice, which has no nutrition at all, and you're giving this baby something that fills them up but doesn't give them any benefit. So the baby doesn't, when it comes to other foods, the baby doesn't have the gut maturity to break the foods down until they get to about 6 months. So this is why we recommend exclusive milk feeding, whether it's breast or bottle, up to 6 months, and thereafter introducing other foods alongside it. So, and your baby will still get iron from your milk. It will continue. It isn't, whilst breast milk doesn't have huge amounts of iron, what it does have, the baby can access all of it. Formula milk, they have to put lots and lots of iron in it because the baby is less able to access it. So they have to put a lot in it to compensate for that. So I would suggest, Heba, that you are fine to keep going, and if the research really supported doing it sooner, because of the iron situation, then WHO and UNICEF would come in line with that. But at this point in time, they're still recommending exclusive breastfeeding up to 6 months, and then introducing solid foods alongside milk feeding, and milk feeding being the main food. So food before 1 is just for fun. So the main source of nutrition is still going to be milk right up to the first year. So babies are then learning about other foods, getting used to texture, getting used to hand, so the hand-mouth coordination. But the majority of the nutrition will still come from your breast milk or formula milk if you're formula feeding. So keep going. You've done a brilliant job. You've got to 5.5 months, not much longer to go. So that's absolutely fabulous. Well done you. That's really, really good. Taya has said, I'm sorry, the alarms are going off at the moment. We've had all sorts of fire alarms and all sorts today. Taya has said, I'm currently 35 plus 5 weeks and I'd love to exclusively breastfeed. If for any reason I can't straight away or struggle to do so, what are the options in place to ensure they're feeding? I personally not want to use formula unless it's completely necessary. Also, should I pack pre-made formula for these scenarios? Right, so Taya, firstly, let's start with the end. We stock formula milk here. You do not need to bring formula milk in with you. Should you need formula milk, we can provide that for you. Just to say, as I've said every time I talk about formula milk, all formulas are the same in that they have the same nutritional value. You can spend a lot of money on one and a lot less money on another, but they have the same nutritional value. They have to, in order to meet the UK government requirements for food for babies. So if one of the companies claims that they've got X, Y and Z in theirs, then actually if it was really needed, all of them would do it. So you are not doing your baby a disservice, anybody that's listening, by giving your baby a cheaper priced brand versus an expensive brand. Paying more does not buy better when it comes to formula milk. We often equate it to paracetamol. If you go into the supermarket and you buy own brand paracetamol, it's still just as good as a paracetamol with a branded name, and that's the same with formula milk. So don't worry about bringing anything in with you. The first thing we would do, and bear in mind your baby will only have a tiny weeny tummy, and I'm looking for my little marble. Babies are born with tiny weeny tummies, the size of a cherry. I'm trying to get the little one out, and it's evading me. Here we go. Oh, no, still not it. There we go. So we have stomach-sized balls. Babies are born with tiny, weeny tummies, okay? They do not need big volumes of food in the first 24 to 48 hours. The volume of food goes up very radically because by day 3, we've gone up to this. So they're going up really quickly. So babies' need for food is not huge in the first 24 hours, and this contributes to what I was talking about with regard to the weight. The babies have immature livers and kidneys, and they can't cope with big volumes of food. So colostrum is a food in concentrate. So the first thing we would do with Utire is, if your baby didn't attach, we would support you to hand express. And actually, in a couple of weeks, you could have a go at it and have a go at hand expressing before your baby is born. Learn that skill before you come in. Collect if you want to, but there's no obligation on you unless there's a risk of you having your baby early, or maybe if you have diabetes, then there would be real benefit in collecting colostrum before you have your baby. But if you don't need to, just learn the skill of hand expressing. We have a video on our webpage, OUH, this is how you find it, OUH maternity feeding. Literally put that search in and up will come a link to our videos. It'll be our webpage. You go to resources and you'll see maternity playlist, and there's a video of a mother hand expressing, and we talk about how to hand express, so you could learn how to hand express. And talk to your community midwives and get some syringes if you want to collect. But just by having the skill before you've even had your baby will make life a lot easier. Trying to learn a new skill when you're tired, when you've just had a baby, can be a bit more challenging. So, maybe have a go beforehand. So you could come in with a bit of colostrum. If you haven't, then we would support you to hand express as soon as your baby's born anyway, if your baby's not going to the breast. And as I said, you don't need big amounts. And if you're still struggling and your baby needs feeding, then the first thing we would offer is donated breast milk. So we wouldn't go to formula at that point in time. As long as you agreed to it, we'd go to donated breast milk. And if you want to know more about donated breast milk and all the regime and the routines and the checks that we put through it, have a watch of last week's session, because I was in the milk bank with Amanda last week, and we talked about the donors and the screening that's in place, and then what happens to the milk when it comes in. So it's a really good, that would really help you, hopefully reassure you if you were thinking about donated and had any questions, that your questions would be answered there. So Should your baby arrive and you can't feed your baby for one reason or other, maybe your baby's on the special care baby unit or they're not attaching, then the first thing we do is get you hand expressing as soon as possible, preferably within the first hour of birth. So you would be expressing into a syringe. So this is a syringe, this is a 1 ml syringe, so it's absolutely tiny. And even if, as long as your baby's healthy in term, even if you only got sort of 0.1 or 0.2, I don't know if you can see here, we're talking about literally just to here, it's tiny, mini amounts. Even if you only got that, that would be sufficient as long as your baby got that a number of times in the first 24 hours. What happens though is you have small amounts of colostrum initially and you hand express those off. By day 3 to 5, your milk will come in. So the volumes will go up, and that's why we go from a stomach size of this to a stomach size of this very quickly. So the stomach increases in volume really rapidly and your milk supply mimics it. So you would be hand expressing to bring your milk in, and then your milk starts to come in and the volumes just go through the roof, hopefully. So you would get what you need to feed your baby. If there's a shortfall in the meantime, that's where we make donated breast milk available if necessary. So that's how we would support you in that way. And you know, we try and protect human milk exclusivity as much as we can. So you mentioned you don't really want to be giving formula, and we would support you with that as much as we can. So we're very lucky. As we mentioned on the session last week, and we mentioned sometimes, we're one of the very few hospitals that has donated breast milk on our postnatal ward. So the postnatal ward has milk available and donated as long as we have enough coming from our community mums who are being so kind as donating their milk. So Tyra, I hope that answers your question. So you could think about hand expressing from 37 weeks onwards. I would go and have a look at our videos. You can find them on our webpage, on the Breastfeeding webpage, the link's there. And then don't worry about bringing any formula in, we have it, and let me reassure anybody else who's watching, we have formula milk available. You do not need to bring your own in, and we will use it if we need to. But before we got to formula, we would be offering a donated breast milk. That's what we would be doing first. And you know, should you have bought, which many mothers do, a tin of formula and it's on your shelf at home, then that does not stop you using donated when you're here. Many, many mothers buy tin of formula as their insurance policy. And what we hope is that eventually you'll throw that tin of formula away because you never needed it. And that's, you know, again, you know, thinking about, you could buy the cheapest anyway, so it's not so much money thrown away. But just because you may have a tin of formula at home, that is not a reason for not using donated, because we always hope that by giving you support with hand expressing, breastfeeding, donated if necessary, that actually you never need to open that tin of formula and it stays there as your insurance policy and unopened. I hope that helps. Heba has said, thank you. Another question, restarting solids. The first steps report mentions other signs that a baby is ready to start solid foods. Babies should be able to sit up and hold their head steady, that's true, pick up food and move it to their mouth, and swallow food. I wondered whether I should wait for all these signs to appear, e.g. if my baby gets 6 months and still can't sit up, can I start giving him solids? I think we would normally be recommending a baby can sit up to have them, because they're going to need to be able to sit to do the hand, you know, the hand-mouth coordination. You know, and these are signs of readiness for food, that the baby is mature enough to cope with it. There's no hurry to do this. You've got time, so if your baby's not ready, it doesn't matter if you go back, you carry on for another couple of weeks. It's not going to make a big difference. So, you know, you can hang on and just wait for your baby to be ready. You notice, and I remember noticing with my own children, they start watching. If they're sitting at the table with you, they start watching you putting food to your mouth, and they'll watch you avidly. They're like, "Oh, what are you doing?" And they'll start reaching for food as well, and they start reaching out for it. So these are things that you could be looking out for as well. But say, you know, it's quite a landmark when you get to that 6 months. I think many parents feel it's a real landmark that you get to that 6 months and you can start offering solid foods. But it doesn't have to be bang on 6 months. It's when your baby is ready, and that's from, you know, we all are ready for things at different stages in our lives. You know, all things, you know, whether it's learning to drive, getting married, or if you do that, or, you know, having children. So your baby isn't going to be necessarily completely ready at 6 months. So I think each baby at their own pace, and that's being a responsive parent. You know, we talk a lot about responsive feeding, meeting the baby where they are, so that would be being a responsive parent in that respect as well. So wait for your baby to be ready, Hebo. They change very quickly. I can see messages coming through thick and fast, so she'll whip back up again. Hope that answers that one, Heba. Right, Taya said, I've asked about colostrum harvesting with a midwife and will be given syringes at my next appointment. Brilliant. It was mentioned to start after 37 weeks too. I've taken note of the Hand Express video to watch before for an idea, but the donated milk video last week was really informative. Thank you. Thank you. We had some really good feedback from last week. And Amanda thoroughly enjoyed doing it, and she did a fabulous job, I think, of explaining all the process. I learned stuff. I mean, I've worked with Amanda for a long time, but I learned things that I didn't know as well. So it was really useful, I think, and we have had good feedback from staff members who've watched it, and it's widened their knowledge as well. So I'm glad you found it useful, and thank you for the feedback on that. And I'm glad you're getting some syringes, and if you need any help with hand expressing, you can always talk to your community midwife. Helen has said, hello, my little boy is 9 days old. We left Skaboo day 5. He's doing much better on the breast after NG and bottle up top-ups. He's now taking the breast first without having to be woken with the bottle. Since he started drinking more from me, my pumping volumes have gone down. Is this okay? Is it just because he's taking more of it? Want to make sure my supply continues to keep up with him as he gets better and better at feeding. Thank you. Well, Helen, thank you for that question, and I'm sorry your poor baby was on Skaboo for the first 5 days, but I'm really glad your baby's back with you now. And yes, it's a really good sign that your baby's taking milk at the breast. That's a really good sign. And the other thing you could be thinking about is, feeding your breast before. Think, how does my breast feel? It's a bit like when you pump, and you pump the breast, and you feel it and think, yeah, full, really feeling quite full pump, and it feels much softer. Before you put your baby to the breast, how does your breast feel? Be conscious of how it feels afterwards. Does it feel softer? And that's a really good way of going, oh yeah, I can feel. I often say this to mums, so why don't my baby got any milk? Well, does your breast feel softer than when before your baby went on? Yes. And often mums will sit there, weighing their breasts up. Yes, it feels softer. Well, then your baby definitely got some milk. And it's watching that jaw. So watching what your baby does at the breast. We talk about 4 reliable signs of milk transfer. I should have them in a folder. I've got them in this one. Always the way, have I got my posters with me? The 4 reliable signs of milk transfer are, what does the baby do at the breast? The baby goes onto the breast and they do a lovely suck swallow pattern. I'm just looking to see if I can find it. Suck swallow pattern. No, I'm not doing very well with my posters today. I've not got that one. This is the issue. I could carry on looking if I had Naomi, but so what does the baby do? They go on and they go chomp, 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 chomp to get the let down. They start getting the let down because that's when your milk comes, and then they go into long, deep sucks with pauses, and you can hear the swallowing. So it might be suck, suck, swallow, suck, suck, swallow, suck, suck, swallow, pause, suck, suck, swallow, suck, suck, swallow, suck, suck, swallow, pause. That change from quick to long, deep sucks tells you your baby's getting milk. That's what we call the first reliable sign of milk intake. Number 2 and 3 are the poos and wees. So are you getting nice yellow stools, a minimum of 2 every day? And they want to look chicken korma colour with little flecks in them preferably, and they want to be a minimum of a £2 coin size. So are you getting 2 of those every day? Are you getting 6 heavy wet nappies a day? That heavy that you pick up the nappy that you've just taken off the bottom, take a clean one from the packet and go, yeah, I can feel the difference. Yeah, really, more than the blue line, can you feel the difference? And they get squidgy as well. And then the 4th one is weight. So the 1st, 2nd and 3rd, you can do that without ever looking at a set of scales. Now this relates brilliantly back to what I was talking about with weight. So when we weighing babies on day 5, and I said to you we weigh babies on day 0 when they're born, and then we weigh them on day 5. When we're weighing a baby on day 5, it should never be a surprise, because we're expecting that baby to have gone through, and I have got these pictures, I've just seen them, to go through that change in stools. So I know that it's going to be back to front, because I'm sorry about that, but you're going to see the colours. You're looking for that change in stools. They've gone from thick, sticky black, like Marmite, on the bottom, can't get it off with cotton wool and water. I mean, we tell you to, and it's all sliding everywhere, to much, much more sort of liquid. They're getting more liquid, lighter in colour, they're getting a bit more green, and you can get it off with cotton wool and water, to the yellow by day 4. So you're watching that change, And as long as you've got yellow by day 4, we know your baby's going to not lost too much weight. If you've got a baby that has not pooed, or you've got a baby that's this colour on day 5 when the community midwives come, your baby is likely to have lost more than 10%. If your baby has got yellow stools and is passing good amounts of urine, so we're looking for about 5 heavy wet nappies a day, on day when the baby's weighed on day 5, then your baby has probably not lost more than 10%. So this is really good. So that when we talk about 4 reliable signs, we go, what's your baby doing at the breast? So this fits in. Oh, my computer's telling me it's running low. Well, I hope it's not going to run out on me. I'm going to have to read the questions off there if it does. So what you're going to be looking at is the poos and the wees. So the start slow pattern, so that's a good indicator, poos and wees, and the weight comes later. So those are all things that will help. So Helen, I think yes, what's happening is your baby is taking more milk from the breast, which is brilliant, okay? And just keep going. And with regard to pumping, pump, pause, I was about to go to pump, pause, pump, as if I'd already explained it. Pump being guided by the flow. Don't look at a clock. So while the milk's flowing, you pump. When it begins to slow or stop, have a 30-second break. Set the pump going again, because you'll get another letdown. And then when it begins to slow or stop, have a 30-second break, set the pump going again. Now this mimics babies, because when babies are feeding, they feed and pause, like I just mentioned. If you pump once and once only on the breast, you get 1 letdown, and yet a baby would have got 2, 3, 4, 5 letdowns. So by stopping and starting and stopping and starting with the pump, being guided by the flow, then you actually get more letdowns and you help push your milk supply. So you'll stay ahead of your baby that way, Helen. So thinking about doing it that way would be really good. So thinking about that. This is all on our pumping video that we have on our website as well, if you want to look at. I'm just looking at it going. And Alicia's saying she can't wait for her first holiday. Oh, lovely. Right. So I think hopefully I've answered that question, Helen. Moko has said, my baby's 15 days old. His latch was good at the beginning, but it's become quite unstable now. He comes on and off and gets quite fussy latching. Also, feeding sometimes takes so long because of the latch, and long feeding, my nipples have got very sore. What would your advice be? I think you need some help with positioning and attachment. Have you been signed off by your community midwives, Moko? Maybe contact them, and if you haven't, and get some support with positioning and attachment. If you have been signed off, can I recommend you contact Oxfordshire Breastfeeding Support or Abingdon Breastfeeding Cafe, and we have spaces in clinic next week as well, so you can ring us for an appointment. But you shouldn't be sore. And feeds should be somewhere between 5 and 40 minutes on each side. So have a look and see what's happening there. You know, from that point of view, you want to, you shouldn't be seeing feeds getting longer and longer. You should be, your baby should be having a minimum of 8 feeds in 24 hours. We expect babies to have lots of feeds, but they should be between 5 and 40 minutes on each side. So you might offer one side and then offer the other, but you shouldn't be sore. Soreness is probably an indication that things are, we can probably improve your positioning attachment. That will improve your milk transfer as well, so your baby will get more milk. It will improve your milk production as well, because your milk production will go down if your baby is not feeding from the breast well. So thinking about that. Now, I hope that helps. Heber's come back, so thank you very much, very useful. Helen's gone, thank you Alex, nappy's good and weight finally going back up in line with expected. I'm compressing to help him stay interested. And that's a very good point. Got a baby at the breast and you want to try and increase the milk supply they're getting, you can do compressions. That's a whole hand back against the chest wall, in and hold. Really keep it. The baby will be suck, 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 suck. They pause, you let go. They start up again, you go again. So it's really holding onto the breast. Big handful. You can do it over, you could do it under, you can work your way around. But compressions really increase the volume of milk babies get. If you do it while you're pumping, you'll find where it works best for you. So you might want to put your hands over the flange, and then you can compress at the same time when you're pumping. I'll show you what I mean. Like this. So like that. And then you're going to go in and hold. Nice big compressions up against the breast. And you'll see more milk coming. I did it with a mother this morning, and she was doing this, and she could see more milk coming, which was great. Right, my laptop's packed up, so I'm going to have to do it on the screen now. It's my fault because I have my laptop in clinic. So let's just go down. Sorry, you're going to have to put my finger on the screen. I hope I don't. Right. So Mocha, I think that might help then if you can get some support with feeding. I'm just looking for the questions. It's so much easier on my laptop. I took my laptop to clinic, but that's my fault. I shouldn't have done that. Right, sorry, you can't even see me. I'm just working my way down the questions because I've gone back up again. Right. We've done that one. Bear with me, folks. We've done that one. That was Helen. I'm working my way down. Sorry about this. Yeah, we've got that one. It's not much easier. It's so much more difficult on my phone. Right, so Heba said thank you. Helen has said about her nappies. Right, let's just have a quick look and see what else she said. So, oh, so Helen's saying, thank you, Alex. Nappy's good and weight finally going back in line with expected. I'm compressing to help him stay interested and can definitely feel the ducts emptying. Can see and hear really good swallowing. So feeling very reassured. By no means perfect yet, but we're getting better at it every day, and that is the point. It is a learned skill. So you know, it's like I always say to people, it's like learning to drive. It's like riding, you know, learning how to ski, ride a bike. It's a skill we all have to learn. So the practice, and there's two of you learning, and you know, even if you've had a baby before, then you've got a new baby. It's, you know, it's a new start. It's like a new dance partner, as one of our colleagues puts it. So you're thinking about having to learn a skill together, and you can have a mum who knows exactly what she's doing, but the baby doesn't yet. So keep going. It's a great, you know, it is a skill that you're going to learn. So that's brilliant. Right, so he said thank you. That was Helen. Jessica said, my little one is now 6 weeks old. The feeds, which were 30 to 50 minutes, are now only 5 to 15. I've really struggled to get him on the breast, and offer him the other side is really rarely successful. He seems to choke often and seems to cry whilst at the breast, more so at night. I've tried a few different positions. Any ideas? That sounds a bit like he's choking with the flow. So that might be, again, worth having another look at your positioning attachment. I know I say this all the time. I'm sorry, just looking at the screen. I know I say it all the time, but actually as babies get older, we don't allow for them to grow so much. So what we do is we keep them where they were. So I haven't got 2 dolls today. You can tell I ran straight out of clinic to come and do this. I'm so not ready. So if you imagine having a little baby, you've got a little baby bang slap in front of you, and that's where they are. But as they get big, oh, we're off camera. Have I turned the camera off? Oh, sorry, I thought it was an off camera. It's something else. So when you get a bigger baby, you've still got to keep that head there regardless. So you're just going to end up with more baby over here. So allow your babies to grow. Always start nose to nipple. So you're going to have a baby that's just here to begin with, and as they grow, they go this way. So the head is still here. They don't go this way. They go this way. They go round you. So this baby's going to get bigger and bigger going round you rather than square in front of you. So that's one of the things that we know makes a really big difference. I'm sorry, this is not as handy as doing it on my laptop. So that was Jessica. Now, it sounds like, you know, the other thing that Jessica suggested, you've probably got really good flow, and that maybe your baby doesn't need quite so much. You haven't mentioned whether your baby's gaining okay, so hopefully your baby is gaining okay, but it might be that just your baby's become a bit more efficient as well. But it would be well worth it just getting it checked. Get someone to have a look and see what's happening. Get them to, you know, get someone to just look at your positioning attachment again. I can't remember how old you said your baby was now. I think you said at the beginning, didn't you? 6 weeks, yeah. Health visitor maybe, Oxfordshire, breastfeeding support, anyone like that. Just have a quick peek at what's happening, and just give you a hand. It's not uncommon that we get to this stage needing another little bit of support with feeding, even if things have gone well at the beginning. Mums often need just another check-in, let's see what's happening, and it can be a minute change, a millimetre here or there will make a really, really big difference. And it can make the difference of whether you carry on or not. So good luck with that, Jessica. Access some more support, I think. Hello, Emma. She said, what recommend combined feeding, or is it best to stick to either breastfeeding or formula feeding? So that's Emma. I would, if you're in a position that you can't exclusively breastfeed, or you don't want to exclusively breastfeed, we would always maximise any breast milk a baby can have. Any breast milk is beneficial. So even mothers who feel that their supply is really not great, the smallest amount of breast milk is still beneficial. The milk that you make is totally different to any other milk that anyone else makes. So whilst donated breast milk is absolutely amazing, and we're so lucky to have it, a mother's milk is by far the best. So, and it goes in order. The World Health Organization say the order goes breast milk from the mother direct, as in breastfeeding, express breast milk from the mother, donated breast milk, formula milk last. So if it's a choice, then we'd always go exclusive breastfeeding first, exclusive breastfeeding and express breast milk together. Or if a mother really can't, hasn't got enough supply, we might add in formula milk if there isn't donated. But we would maximise it. It's never an either or. I think when I was younger, people thought you either breastfed or you bottle fed. I can tell you there are so many women out there who are mixed feeding. So we maximise and really, really, sort of big up any breast milk you can give your babies, because it is so fantastic. Your breast milk is totally different from the woman next door, or if you're on level 5 and there's 43 women in, every single one of those women's breast milk will be different and tailor-made for their baby. Your body knows if your baby's come early. Your body knows if you've come into contact with a bug. Your body's picked up if your baby's come into contact with a bug. So everything is different. So yes, maximise any breast milk a baby can give. And if we have to use formula, we use formula. So I hope that answers your question, Emma. So Mocha has said, thank you, I have an appointment with you next week as my baby is not gaining weight quick enough. Brilliant, okay, that's great. I look forward to meeting you next week and we can address your problems. Are you pumping in the meantime to just keep going? Because if your baby's not gaining weight, then we would be highly recommending you're pumping and giving your own milk, because that will secure your supply as well. I'll have a quick look through and see what I can find, because you maybe have spoken to one of my colleagues. Oh, Charlotte's who's off to the... I thought we were off camera, and it's Charlotte saying that she's off to the Canaries. So that'll be Alicia's first holiday. How exciting. That's lovely. Right, and I'm scooting on down. I'm trying not to miss any questions, because comments are coming in. So Heba said thank you, and I've done that one. So it's... Wendy always used to do it this way. It's much easier on a computer. Brilliant. So I've done that one. So I can see Mocha next week. Charlotte's off to the Canaries. Emma's come back and said thank you. Charlotte said I gave Alicia breast milk and formula milk and it helped her gain weight. And that is the case. Sometimes, we talked about weight. Sometimes when we're in a situation where a baby isn't gaining quite as much as we want, we have to use formula milk. We need babies to gain. That's what keeps them healthy. So it's a trade-off. So we will maximise on the breast milk, and if we need to supplement, we will first and foremost supplement with the mother's own milk, maybe donated milk if we've got it available, and then formula milk if we haven't. And we always live in hope, that the mother's supply will go up in such a way that she can then phase out the formula milk if need be. So, that's what we're working towards. So this all comes back to the weights that I was talking about at the beginning, that it's really normal for babies to lose some weight at the beginning. And those signs of the poos and the wees are such a good thing to look out for. So if you haven't had your babies yet, or your babies are in the early days, think about this. It's page 17 of Off to the Best Start, which is a leaflet you should have been sent home with. It's a yellow covered book leaflet. Page 17 is what this has come from. So you're looking for that change in stools, you're looking for an increase in wheeze. So what we want to see is that maybe in the first 24 hours, the baby only wheezes once. And then in the second 24 hours, we want them to weigh 2 to 3 times, and it's going to keep going up. So if you think today is day 3, we would like your baby to weigh maybe 3 to 4 times. By the time we get to day 6, a baby should be weeing a minimum of 6 times in 24 hours. So you've got 6 heavy wet nappies every single day. And those are such good signs that a baby is getting what they need, that they've got 2 yellow stools every day, and that they've got 6 heavy wet nappies every day. And that carries on up to 6 weeks. So at 6 weeks, it changes, and babies after 6 weeks that are being breastfed will often slow down. They poo slightly less, and some can go a few days without pooing. But what's not normal is under 6 weeks, babies not pooing. Every baby under 6 weeks that's breastfed should be pooing on a daily basis. The colostrum that I mentioned that you may express into here, or you get straight into your baby, it's a laxative. And that helps the baby poo out that meconium that's in their gut. And that's a fantastic thing, because they need to get rid of it. It's full of bilirubin, and bilirubin is what makes babies jaundiced. And jaundice is not something to be sniffed at. While 60% of babies might go on to get jaundice, in its extreme case, it's very dangerous, which is why we do our bili checks. So we're looking at the colour of babies. You know, has the baby got a yellow face? Has it gone down the torso? And we put a bili meter on them to read it as well and get a rating on that. So the pooing that comes about because they've had the laxative of colostrum helps protect them from jaundice, and also it stimulates the milk supply because it tells the body that the baby has been born, and it helps the baby not to lose weight. So it all goes together. Everything, when it goes together, it works beautifully. But sometimes you might have a baby that's a bit sleepy, or you might be separated and it might be difficult to get your milk supply going. You might be feeling really under the weather after your birth, and finding it difficult to get going with hand expressing. Unfortunately, no matter what it was like, we do need you to get on with the hand expressing if your baby's not attaching, because that's how you bring your milk supply in. So anyway, I seem to have run out of questions. I think Charlotte was the last one. She was saying about that and was very appropriate. So I hope I haven't missed anyone. I know it's not been particularly easy doing it on my phone here. So I'm looking forward to seeing Mocha next week, and I hope I've answered all your questions. Any further questions? And next week I shouldn't be on my own. I should have Naomi as well. There should be 2 of us. And think about things that you might want to cover. You know, is there something particular that you'd like us to cover on these sessions? Is there an area of feeding that you'd like us to do? Then send us a message. I think as we've run out of questions, I'm going to call it a day and speak to you next week. Thank you for all the questions so far. Bye.